Absolutely, absolutely. When they took the industrial building trade programs out of the high schools, that was the beginning of the mass incarceration of black males. They knew what they were doing. They did it on purpose. And I think that there needs to be a concerted effort by city council, by the Tennessee state legislature, by the governor, by the mayor, to put the building trade programs back into the school. And when we say put them back, we don't just mean a few plumbing classes. I want to be clear, because what a lot of school districts are doing is they're giving the kids a few plumbing classes, a few carpentry classes, a few electric classes. Give them the full curriculum required by the state that allows them to sit for their license after graduation. We want the full training, preparation, not just no introduction. Give them the preparation, because that's what the white boys are getting.
I just went and looked because I wanted this. I'm big for unraveling. You know, once you figure out how we got there, then we can figure it out and do something different. You know, to do something in the future. And I was wondering, where were the guards? Were we asleep in the 60s and 70s and 80s when they took the vocational stuff out of the school? And I read an article that talked about the fact that they felt that they were basically throwing black kids and underprivileged kids into all these VOTEC classes. And when they got out, they weren't well-rounded enough. In other words, they only knew about this one trade, but if there was no job in that trade, they were useless for the rest of the world. And so there may be some validity in that. And I was just trying to figure out how we got there and what should we be focusing on as parents, because again, to your point earlier, we give the educational institution the full Monty of our kids. We give the church the full access to our kids and tell them we give everybody our kids, and then, you know what I'm saying? So how can we as parents begin to help our own selves to come out of this drama?
Well, see, here's the thing. I've never met an unemployed plumber, licensed plumber. I've never met an unemployed licensed electrician. I've never met an unemployed licensed carpenter. I've never met an unemployed licensed welder. I've never met an unemployed licensed auto mechanic. I've never met an unemployed person who had a skill that can pay bills. I know hundreds of unemployed people with master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, and doctorate degrees. We have to understand that the education we get at the university level is an education that prepares you to work at a white institution. Those educations don't prepare you to be an entrepreneur, nor do they prepare you to service and build infrastructure in the black community. If the white man isn't hiring, then your college degree is damn near useless. If you look at most of the black people you know with a college degree, they're working in the public sector. Teachers, civil service, government, politics, child advocacy, child welfare is something government funded, because white corporate America does not hire black people. There would be no black middle class if the government didn't make one themselves through these public sector jobs. But when you have a skill that can pay the bill, you can always feed your family. You can always feed your family.
I believe that that a lot of the ills are us not knowing ourselves. And so I know you dabble in the metaphysical and that kind of thing of that nature. Black people needing 7 to 14 minutes of sunlight every day. Is that really important? Sun gazing?
It's very important, especially for us because we're melanated beings. So the relationship between African people and the sun is a very profound one. This is why in ancient Kemet, our ancestors actually used the sun as the primary symbol for God, because just as the world revolves around God, everything living revolves around the sun. And without that sun, your melanin does not get activated. Your third eye, pineal gland, does not get activated. Nothing can really survive without the sunlight, including us. But because the white man has taught us to hate our skin color and our melanin, a lot of black people shun the sun. I've seen parents tell their children, come in the house before you get too black, get out the playground before you get too dark, failing to recognize that there is a divine energy emanating from that sun that your body needs. Melanin is not a color. It is a chemical, an energy, and a power. And in order for us to be healthy, functioning spiritual beings, we have to have our melanin activated by the sun. Black people cannot survive without the sun.
Breastfeeding, is that important?
Breastfeeding is very important. It's I would say it's emotionally important, because it begins to lay the foundation for the development of an emotionally and psychologically sound child. If you look, the research shows that children who were breastfed compared to children who were not breastfed come out with much more progressive social and emotional indicators. Breastfed children adjust to life circumstances a lot better than children who were fed machine milk from the white man. We also got to understand that the chemicals in a lot of this artificially made milk are very toxic as well that we're finding. Even industrial ingredients are being found in that milk. So yes, mothers should breastfeed. And I would argue that when a mother doesn't breastfeed, unless she has a medical justification to do so, in my opinion, that is an early form of child abuse and an early form of child neglect. God made those breasts for a reason. Your children need them. But in a new age where they have fed out women a steady diet of radical white feminism, a lot of black women are beginning to disdain motherhood, disdain rearing children, disdain being a caretaker of the home. Not to say they should not be operating outside the home, because I think a black woman could do anything a black man can do, but never abandon your cultural principles to include understanding the spiritual significance of making sure you are a mother and a caretaker to your babies.
Yeah. Or it wouldn't be a world.
It wouldn't be a world. And that's part of the reason why we have so much psychological illness in the black community today. Yeah. Look at our depression rates. Look at our alcoholism. Look at our crack cocaine. Look at our opioid use. Look at our overeating, our over shopping, our anger. You know, we have a very strong toxic energy in the black community, the murdering. All of this can be traced to us abandoning our spiritual and cultural foundation for the white man's materialistic and capitalistic pursuits.
Wow, we've walked down a lot of roads, but I got a couple more to go.
Sure,
we walk right into
I'm good.
Abortion, and one of the biggest murderers, in my opinion, of the black family is the abortion. But again, now they've got us where we're fighting. We're fighting, you know, to be able to abort. My one body, my choice. I mean, so how easy? I mean, I think of guys like Edward Bernays, who was supposed to be the father of propaganda. These other mind viruses that have really been placed in the community. And it's not just the black community. Whites are aborting their kids as well. But what do you say about abortion? And I know the adoption rates are down. Black people don't go get kids.
That's true.
Foster. We don't do any of that. And are we derelict in some of these areas? And what are your thoughts on abortion in general?
I'm not a supporter of it.
Okay.
I don't condemn anyone for life decisions that they've had to make for whatever reason. Nobody's perfect. But as a policy decision, the black community has to stop aborting its babies. But I would also say this. I don't want to scapegoat the black woman who gets an abortion, no more than I want to scapegoat the black mother who's not able to control her son's behavior. We have to get back to the village concept, and we have to stop blaming our parents for the failures of the community. Where is the black church to support these single black mothers? Where are the black politicians? Where are the black businesses? Where are the black community-based organizations? So much is being dumped on the lap of black mothers when we talk about abortion, or when we talk about black child dysfunction, black male public school outcomes. Why are we blaming her? Why aren't we blaming all the black men in the community who claim to be leaders and organizers who are not helping our women raise their sons?
But don't we say that was the problem in the 70s and 80s when they did the government, where you had to not have a man in the house to be able to get the money?
In order to get the welfare,
and so is that now, are we speaking the same language now?
Well, I tell you, the issue now is not so much not having a man in the house so you don't get the welfare check. The issue now is not having a man in the house so you don't lose your housing. Because now what we see is a lot of single mothers are being evicted because the child's father is back home from jail. He served his time in society, but Section 8 requires what? You cannot have a felon in that house, an able-bodied felon in the home. So a lot of women now have to keep the man out, not for welfare purposes, but for room and board purposes.
And, of course, the old mind virus of I can do bad all by myself.
I can do bad all by myself. White feminism, radical white feminism has really done a job on the black community in convincing a lot of black women to see the black man as her main problem. White supremacy is the main problem of the black community. And we should be fighting that together as male and female. We should not be fighting one another, but that's exactly what the power structure wants to do.
Women and minority-owned businesses.
Absolutely.
That's one right there that creates. Guys, if you're going to open a business, put it in your wife's name.
Put it in your wife's name. Well, that's also a reason why you have a lot of white men marrying these black women. They're trying to get the minority business status, and then once they get the business off the ground, they drop their black wife and go get a white wife. And a lot of black women fail to realize the economic opportunity you are for a lot of these white males out here.
Sort of like the I ain't gonna spell her name, but a lot of TV networks. They
Yes, sir.
come on playing Martin and all the black shows. As soon as they get the Cume,
they out.
All of a sudden it's the Friends.
We have always been a means to an end for America. We have never been the end. And our problem in America is we hate each other more than we hate the racism. So most of us would rather take a chance on being accepted by white people than build up to create an independent, powerful black community.
You've been to not just Africa, but to various countries.
Everywhere but Australia.
Okay. Polygamy. Is that a thing? And could that be something that could strengthen, or would it be more detrimental to the black community in today's construct?
First of all, we already have polygamy.
Okay.
It's already practiced. Most males have more than one woman, regardless of race. The issue, though, is it's not regulated or organized. So women are being exploited and children are being neglected. So the issue for black women is for sisters to come together without us there to decide how they're going to regulate this system of polygyny that you already have. It's not about bringing something new into the black community. It's already here, but it's not benefiting black women. They're losing. So black women need to organize and put some rules and accountability systems to it so it can begin to work for them. In many matriarchal African societies, polygyny was created by females, not males. And the reason women gave birth to polygyny in matriarchal African societies is to make sure every woman had what they had. It was the Ubuntu principle. I am because we are. My sister cannot be without a husband if I have one. So looking at the best interests of the black community and matriarchal African communities, the women, not men, women said you're going to have more than one wife, because in order for us to maintain the ecological balance of the black community, in order for us to maintain law and order, in order for us to maintain unity and reciprocity, we got to make sure every woman has a man. Because when a woman doesn't have a man, she will gladly share yours. And one of the things that black women have to look at, and I'm not putting this all on the sisters, because a lot of black women have been in polygynous situations. I was raised Muslim, so I've seen in some situations, not all, where polygyny has been used against black women, where they've been exploited by Hebrew communities, Muslim communities, even polygynous Christian communities, and other communities that took advantage of the black woman's willingness to share her husband. So I understand where the sister is coming from. I'm simply saying this: as long as white America has a war on black men, they're sending us to the cemetery and to the graveyard in significant numbers. As long as there is a shortage of available heterosexual black males, black women are going to have to consider some form of plural marriage. It doesn't have to be for everyone. It doesn't have to be indefinite. It doesn't have to last forever. But if we want to get out of this, what quicker way to get out of this than to make sure every home got a man in it? And also, when we have these conversations about polygyny, the female voice is often carried by the elitist middle-class black woman. In other words, you only hear from black women who don't have to share their husbands. You never hear from Sister Rashida on Section 8 with 8 boys pulling her hair out. You don't hear about Sister Kim, you understand me, who is at a point in her life where she's not able to raise these kids on her own, unemployed, living on the street. Talk to the women who are struggling, and most of them will tell you, yes, I'm willing to experience that because what I'm experiencing right now ain't it. This conversation is controlled by elitist black women, upper middle class black women with European values.
That's what's up. And my final topic on this, we've covered literally everything on my paper, is transgender. Why is the church so silent on one fact that boys shouldn't be playing against girls in sports? Not even any of the other major things, but I mean, that just seems like common sense. But why do you think, not just the church, I'll take that back. Why is the black community, in my opinion, silent on those issues?
Well, number one, ever since President George W. Bush came up with the faith-based initiative and made black churches eligible for federal money, black churches have done nothing for the black community. They're too afraid of losing funding. They're too afraid of not qualifying for the funding. So they're done. Black church is done. Whatever the white man wants to push into black America, black church will co-sign it because they don't want to lose their funding. Now, black America in general, we're afraid to speak out against childhood transgenderism. And I can't even believe those two words go together. Childhood transgenderism. The reason the black community is afraid to speak out against childhood transgenderism is because the white power structure said that this is now a civil right for children to change their gender. And if you speak out against civil rights, you can lose your job, you can lose your reputation, you can be sued, a whole bunch of things can happen to you. But you know what's ironic? I know of 2 cases in America right now where school staff have called black children the N-word. Nobody got fired. You follow that? So it's all selective. You're not going to pick on the transgenders. You're not going to pick on the Asians. You're not going to pick on the LGBT, but it's perfectly acceptable to disrespect black folks.
I just read a story about some Nigerian, Mayambi or some lady who was born a female, but some kind of way she emits testosterone. This had to be maybe in 2013, 2014, in a couple of cases. And now they're forcing them to go to 6 months of hormone therapy to stop. You know what I mean? In other words, but you can't use that same energy for a real man who...
Because the agenda is genocide. Transgenderism is genocide. LGBTism, and I respect and love my LGBT brothers and sisters, but I do not support the lifestyle. But that's besides the point. Why is America going to Africa? Why did Kamala Harris just meet with the president of Ghana to talk about gay sex in West Africa? Why is that necessary? With all the problems that Africa has, why do you need to fly that many thousands of miles to talk about gay sex? Because the more you convince males to live as females, and the more you convince females to live as males, there will be no repopulation. There will be no reproduction. One of our essential divine responsibilities to God is procreation. They want to stop procreation in order to exterminate African people. And most of us are so blinded by